When talking about international development, we often speak of the need for everyday necessities like food, medicine, or clean water. From there, our discussion may grow to sustainable agriculture, transportation, healthcare, or a public education system. But these are just the basics. If a country is going to experience long-term growth, it must have a government that serves the needs of its people. Therefore, support for democracy is a key ingredient to successful development. The organization I lead, the International Republican Institute, focuses on this important work. In some 90 countries and with 60 field offices around the globe, IRI facilitates good governance through workshops on civic engagement, women's empowerment, youth leadership, and media training. We also educate lawmakers on citizen needs and lead election observation missions. All this makes democracies more transparent, representative, and accountable. In some parts of the world, it appears that democracy is under attack. Xi Jinping in China, Vladimir Putin in Russia, Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, and other dictators have consolidated control of their countries or brutally repressed dissent to cling to power. But this does not mean democracy is in retreat. Around the world, people are taking to the streets, organizing online, and speaking out to demand fair and accountable governance. I would like to offer an optimistic view of democracy and explain why it's essential to this conversation. When the communist dictatorship in Beijing imposed a law to restrict political freedoms in Hong Kong, millions of people took to the streets to protest this incredible abuse of power. In Belarus, when a fraudulent vote count was obvious, people threw their support around a democratically elected leader demanding reforms that could topple Europe's last dictatorship. A few years ago, millions of Venezuelans marched throughout the country in defiance of a brutal regime that bankrupted a once wealthy nation. Resistance against Maduro's regime continues to this day. In Sudan, after 30 years of iron-fisted rule by Omar al-Bashir, protests erupted in Khartoum and a dictator was overthrown peacefully. And in Putin's Russia, we recently witnessed a series of protests that brought more than 250,000 people into the streets in over 100 different cities. Change will come, setbacks are inevitable, but decades of oppression have not stopped the desire of millions to live under a system that preserves their freedom and promotes their prosperity. People all over the world are standing up and demanding a government that works for them. They wish to be citizens, not subjects. Their desire to live in a democratic society is not just about political rights, however. Oppressed populations understand that a tyrannical regime rarely delivers economic prosperity. They may appear strong and stable on the surface, but underneath, they are brittle. With few exceptions, a country that crushes dissent and rejects accountability will condemn its people to a life of poverty. Conversely, a nation that chooses its leaders through multi-party elections, has an independent judiciary, welcomes a free press, celebrates diversity, and protects individual liberties is likely to be a highly developed and modernized state. There's no better example than on the Korean Peninsula. South Korea is a thriving democracy with a vibrant economy where opportunity abounds for its citizens. But just across the border, the Kim family's dictatorship has turned North Korea into a prison for millions of people who are serving a life sentence but have committed no crime. Democracies allow their people the freedom to create and innovate. They are political systems that provide for civic engagement and participation from the ground up. With outlets and opportunities to work through their problems peacefully, it's less likely that war and corruption will rule the day. A government with total control will steal from its people, restrict the rights of its citizens, and prevent itself from becoming an important player in the global arena. It will never fully develop, no matter how much aid it receives from the international community. The greatest assets for economic success are not natural resources, geographic location, or advanced technologies. They are the ideas and creations that exist within people's minds. They must be set free and put to use in an open society. Only then will a country reach its full potential. Going forward, let's make sure that democracy always has a seat at the table when it's time to discuss international development. Democracy is more than a system of government. It's the wish of millions who live under tyranny. They know democracy is not perfect, but they also know that free people and free markets are necessary tools for building a better world. We in free societies should strive never to forget that. Thank you.